Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome back to a Thrones of Britannia update. Total War released the Alfred the Great trailer yesterday, as well as updated the Steam page with a lot of solid content therein. First up is the trailer and my thoughts, and then I'll dive into the Steam page. Let's get right on into it.
I have been patient, Lord. I abide the presence of heathens, so there might be peace. And oaths were broken. I forgave. I even lined their pockets, but the Danes will not be sated. Enough! Patience is not thy will. It is the Kingdom of Wessex! And my divine rule.
First off, the trailer does look pretty awesome. It's Total War's typical trailer style, shows off the hero, his units, some settlements, and of course a little bit of battles. But I'm going to start with the positives. The setting seems vibrant and much more colorful than in the Attila base game. Even the winter battle in the trailer seems less dismal. And don't get me wrong, I love the bleak look of Attila because it does fit the time period, but in that same breath, I'm very much looking forward to an Attila game with a brighter and less apocalyptic feel. We do get a glimpse of a few settlement types. In the trailer, if that is, in fact, a minor settlement, then it's definitely much smaller than the minor settlements in Attila. Remember, every single minor settlement is not walled, and there's no way to make walls for them. It's part of the mechanics of the game, with very narrow roads, and I'm sure there's going to be a courtyard or something in the middle, much like they are in Attila, the base game, or in pretty much every single Total War game they're in. The two walled settlements do give me a great deal of hope. I'm going to start with the Winter Siege settlement because it does appear that there are multiple layers of defenses. You have that wall with the towers, you have a bridge, and then while there is no gate in that major settlement, you do have another set of walls, and there is a moat going through it. So it seems like there's going to be multiple levels, at least with some of them, which is very exciting. That's something a lot of us have been asking for since Medieval 2 was the last one that had kind of the multi-level defenses kind of a deal. It will provide a bit more strategy in regards to taking the major settlements, as there doesn't appear to be much wall access aside from the open entrance in like the winter one. But they did also say there's not going to be the big heavy siege equipment either. So it's going to mainly be, I'm assuming, ladders, maybe battering rams, but not anything like siege towers because those weren't very prominent, and neither will catapults be, at least until the late game. The second major settlement also features the same moat and bridge, but it does have a bit of an upgrade with a gatehouse. So it seems like they are changing things up a little bit, and they said they were going to have X amount of different types of maps and city layouts, so I'm hoping we'll be able to get to see those in the future. I would love to see an actual siege, both an attack on a small town so we can really get an idea of the minor settlement, and a major settlement siege, just because I would like to see what kind of engines we're going to be working with and how that's all going to go. And at the very least, it'd be nice if we got some maybe city layouts or some city screenshots from Total War posted up on social media or some blogs in the future. The map does look massive. The transition from that major settlement with the chalk horse hill figure to the panned out British Isles does give the map an immense amount of scale. I'm very excited to see a map flyover like we've seen in the Warhammer titles, which shows off the various terrains and the factions, because they have emphasized very much this is the most detailed British Isles map they've ever created, and as such, I feel like they almost have to show it off. They don't have really a choice. And then, while not specifically a positive, since it's currently unknown, but I'm very much hoping for a 64-bit miracle with the Thrones of Britannia. CA's last blog hinted at the Saga tile running much quote-unquote smoother, which to me and everyone else implies they've either updated the entire Attila engine, which includes the base game, to a 64-bit, or they've somehow created some sort of hybrid engine, temporary hybrid engine rather, with Attila and some unknown engine that is running 64-bit. And since Rome 2's update with the Empire Divided got 4K resolution settings, I'm also hoping for the same thing with Thrones. Despite how great this trailer looked, there are a few things that worry me quite a bit. I'm not going to labor on this for very long because I am honestly excited for the Saga title, and since I'm on YouTube being a content producer and an influencer for potential buyers, no, this is not sponsored by CA, but I do like to give you information on if you want to buy this or not. I don't want to rag on and on and on beating a dead horse about the negatives. And plus, I just generally don't like to harp on the negative issues, just mention them as something that's to consider rather than just be like pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. So let's go ahead and get this over with. The first one is assets. I 100% understand that this is an Attila offshoot. It's running a partial Attila engine. It's set not too long after the base game. It is a Saga title, much like the Fall of the Samurai was for Shogun 2. I get it. But there seems to be little to no unique assets in the trailer. The units, the settlements, the buildings, even the villagers, they all look the same as in Attila. And there may be more mullets in the trailer, but I'm hoping that maybe closer to release we might get more visuals that might help separate it from Attila. But in this trailer, I don't see it at all, and that's pretty disappointing. The other thing is combat. This specific time period has a very distinct form of combat, which is entirely missing from this trailer, the shield wall. If you've ever watched the Vikings TV show or The Last Kingdom, you will know that the signature Viking combat style is the shield wall. And even the Anglo Saxons quickly got on board and developed their own. So what we should be seeing is a much slower style collision, as it were, on the battlefield, where both armies are fighting in a shield wall style, coming together with maybe a couple of breakouts of one-on-one combat before reforming back into that shield wall. There's none of that here. Yes, I understand it's a trailer, and yes, I get it needs to have that punch and that action. And if it's only in the trailer, then I'm okay with that. But if every battle is going to be the base Attila's usual 1v1, really no strong cohesion, collision between the units, and certainly no shield wall action mechanics, I think it's going to completely break the historical accuracy and immersion. So let's just hope and hope and hope that we get to see some sweet shield wall action in the future. Onto the Steam page, and this is where my excitement builds up again, by the way. The Grand Campaign will feature multiple paths to victory, be it through your typical conquest, acquiring renown through construction, tech, and influence, or by completing faction-specific objectives based on that faction's history. Then, once you complete the initial victory objectives, there seems to be another layer of a significant late-game challenge, and then onto the ultimate victory condition. I'm really interested to see what this late-game victory condition is, and I don't know, maybe it'll trigger some sort of big events that could lead up to maybe Total War's future title somewhere down the road, because you have to remember, the last official year of the campaign is somewhere around 1066, the Battle of Hastings, where the Norman invasion begins from France over into England, which pretty much completely changed, it completely changed the landscape of England and its history. So really excited to see what that would be, what that would be like. Going off both Warhammer and the Empire Divided titles, each faction will face a series of unique events and dilemmas which are based off of historical events of the time. We'll see a couple of faction-specific mechanics, such as Viking expeditions and an Anglo Saxon peasant economy, which I'll get to later on. There also appears to be some Total War mechanics, such as provinces, politics, text, recruitment, etc., that are being redesigned to give Thrones of Britannia its own feel, which I'm sure we'll see in future gameplay videos. We also get a rundown of a few of the cultures present in the game and their cultural or faction traits. The Anglo Saxon kingdoms had the Fyrd cultural trait. The Fyrd was a form of conscripted army composed of self-armed and armored freemen called upon to defend the lands when need arose. One of Alfred the Great's many reforms was to better formalize the system, ensuring wealthy landowners contributed men and material, essentially the beginnings of feudalism. As such, English kingdoms in Thrones of Britannia may recruit additional levy units based on the number of settlements they own. Over-reliance on levy troops carries penalties. If too many are fielded, the population will rail against you with excessive conscription and public order issues. And it seems to be a slight variation on the peasant economy of Warhammer, which is pretty interesting. It's a nice adaptation, and of course the idea would be if you needed a big army quickly, you take advantage of this system, and then once the enemy has been defeated or pushed back, they've left, you disband those levy troops to keep that number low. It's pretty cut and dry. Wessex, or Wessex, which is led by Alfred the Great, gets the Witan faction trait. The Witan is an assembly of governors which meets to discuss the future prospects of Wessex. Its recommendations are periodically presented to the player as a series of proposals. Each option has positive and negative campaign effects and can affect the faction's use of the Fyrd levy units. Alfred's faction trait is similar to the pop-ups that happen frequently in Warhammer. They're a bit expanded from the base game. If you'll remember, you have kind of a wanderer comes in. Do you do this? I like the Warhammer continuation of that. It's expanded upon. You get the effects immediately. You see what gets to happen. So that's really nice. And I really did enjoy them. And for instance, it affects the Fyrd units. So say you get an event that gives you, I don't know, like plus 10 melee defense or melee offense for the Fyrd levy units for 10 turns. It would definitely give me the incentive to recruit an army of those using the Anglo Saxon mechanic to do some quick expansion or to go after a Viking army on the outskirts of the land. You know, do something with those units quickly while I have those benefits with me. And then lastly, we get immerseus faction trait, which is hordes. The idea that when you have a large excess of gold, you have the option to give it to your troops for reduced upkeep, give it to the nobles for loyalty and increased market income, or give it to the people for better public order and income from farms. And of course, you could always keep it for yourself, but that has drastic negative effects, I think, on upkeep and on public order. This trait is actually pretty interesting due to Thrones of Britannia's reworking of settlements. If you'll remember, minor settlements only have 3 slots, I think, for building, and most of those settlements can only have certain buildings. So, if you want to take full advantage of this hordes trait, you wouldn't necessarily want to give it to your nobles if you don't have many markets, because that's not going to give you an increase in income. The same goes for the people. If you don't have to give it to them and you don't have many farms, it's not going to be a good idea to give it to them. It's a very minor strategy mechanic, but I like it because it just adds even that small layer of depth to the strategy side of the game, which I think will help set it apart from Attila. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Since I started working on this video, Total War released a blog about it, but it just goes over everything that covers on the Steam page, so I'm not really worried. I do hope you enjoyed the breakdown of Alfred the Great's trailer, and hopefully we will get to see the other faction leaders soon with their own trailers. Stay tuned on the channel for more updates on anything Total War. This is Havoc, and I'm out of here. Peace!